top of the morning to you boys and girls. Richard Scantlin from Remountain Horsemanship. I'm out here on this little fluffy horse, and I'm going to make a video on dragging something. So I'm going to be dragging a log. You can drag well, mine's a fence post. You can drag a fence post. You can drag a piece of PVC pipe. You can drag a grain sack. You can drag whatever you want. Generally, when I'm dragging something, I like to drag something heavier than just an empty piece of PVC pipe, because it seems like when I take my dallies on my horn, if there's weight that I'm dragging, then it's easier to work my dallies and it's easier to work my slack. I know a lot of you guys are English riders, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but you are missing a horn. So you're going to want to be dragging something a little bit lighter than a log, so you don't have to be dragging that log and wearing your hand out. A few things I'm going to do a little bit differently. And before I get into that, why in the world would you want to drag something behind your horse? Well, other than the real world applications of, roping a cow, dragging a cow, if you're never going to do that, dragging firewood, if you're not going to do that, it's getting your horse used to something coming up behind them. It's used to them feeling the pressures and the torque of the saddle. Gets them used to things around their hips while they're in movement. A lot of times in the cowboy world, and I'll show it to you, there's a thing that's called a rim fire. Sometimes you rope something on a young horse, and that rope, you're dragging something and it kind of touches their hips here. That can really bother a horse. They call it a rim fire because it's like a 22 long rifle rim fire, and that can set some horses off. So it just generally gets your horse more confident, gets them used to things, gets them used to accepting things, and also it makes your horse handier. It makes your horse handier, and it makes you a handier horse person. A lot of folks ride two-handed. That's totally fine. But in the name of refinement, you want to eventually get to where you're riding one-handed. So you'll have a rope in one hand, slack in one hand, coils and reins in the other hand, and I have videos on how to hold that stuff. But it makes you a handier person. One thing when dragging something is I take my reins like this, and I'll split my fingers between the reins. Okay? And the reason I do that is so that if I want to go right, I can pinch the right rein, open up the right door, and there's my right turn. Or I can pinch my left rein, let the right rein slide, open up the left door, and that's my left turn. So that's a little bit of rein management. This horse, he has less than 50 rides on him, but I've been working on him being hobbled throughout the course of training. He's learned to accept pressure. He's learned not to freak out with pressure. He's a pretty steady little horse, so I'm not foreseeing too many problems. And all of this stuff I've done on the ground with him. I've rubbed him with ropes. I've rubbed him with flags. I've put the rope around his legs. Gotten him used to all of this stuff, rubbing on him. But I haven't done it under saddle, so I'm just going to check him out. Rubbing him on his neck here, rubbing him down there. That all checks out just fine. A little trick. If I have a horse that's really squirrely and he's not really accepting of these things, sometimes what I can do is I can shorten my right rein just a little bit, and I can kind of rub him, and then if he gets kind of bothered, instead of having to kind of bend his head around or double him around, I can just pick that hand up. So if I'm kind of rubbing this hip, I can pick this hand straight up, and that's going to bring his nose to the right and his hips to the left, so I can kind of maintain that arc in his body, that bend in his body, and kind of work him out of a difficult situation. So he checks out on all this stuff. He's doing pretty good. Build a loop here. And if you don't know how to build a loop, I do have videos on that, but you don't even have to build a loop. You can just swing it like this. Don't have to build a loop, don't worry about it, just swing it. You don't have to even use a lariat rope. You can use a long lunge line, you can use a long lead rope, you can use whatever you want. Get that rope swinging. I like to hit the ground with my rope so it kind of kicks some dust up and some dirt up. Get him used to all of that stuff. I like to get that rope around the front legs, get that rope around the hind legs. Like I said, I did do groundwork preparation for all of this, so I'm not foreseeing any big problems. A lot of times when you're roping, it seems like your rope will go everywhere except where you want it. So you're going to want to get this horse used to the rope being all over the place. build a loop here. Get him used to me building the loop, swinging the loop. Oops, I roped your head. How are you going to handle that? Just like that, I would hope. Get that loop over his butt. I'll start kind of walking a circle here. As I'm walking, you know, same thing as when I'm standing still. But I'll let this rope kind of touch him all over his body. Bounce around those hind legs. Bounce around those front legs. Hind legs. His head. Oops, sorry about that, buddy. In between his ears. Oops, sorry about that, buddy. Oh, sorry. Thanks for handling that like a champ. Majority of the world's right-handed, so we swing from the right side of our horse, and that's fine. But I like to, yes, get my horse, of course, used to things swinging on the right side, but I like to get him used to things out of that left eye also. As we're moving around, swinging, that's good. Throw that rope out there. Nice. So get them very confident around the rope when they're moving out and when they're standing still. Do it first when they're standing still, and then do it when they're moving out. From here, checks out on all that stuff pretty dang good. So I'll come up here, usually get them over that log there. My rope over the fence post. Take the slack out. Now, when I take my dolly, I'm gonna push my coils forward. I'm gonna keep my thumb up. These are pretty important things. Keep my thumb up, and I'm gonna push my coils forward, and I'm gonna take my dallies by going in front of my horn and in a counterclockwise motion. So that coils forward, right hand comes up, and I'll take my dallies. Now, when I'm dallied onto something, if the ship hits the sand and I need to let go of what I'm dragging, I'll do what I call popping the dallies. So I'll take my dallies, like so, but then to undo them, I'm not going to unwind them. That's gonna take too long. So, take your dallies. Oh man, I gotta get loose, like something's happening, the horse is boogering out or something. I'll take my right hand, I'll go straight up, and it pops those dallies off that horn. For me, in my horsemanship, if a horse is boogering out on me, not too bad. I try not to let go of my rope. I try to manage my coils and manage my slack. But in the real world, if the ship hits the sand and the ship's going down, throw your rope away, grab your reins, manage your horse, and get out of the situation. So, we'll be walking off. And when I start this exercise, I always start with the dragging thing on the inside of my circle. At first, I might just kind of not take a dally, and I might just kind of make some noise and commotion back there, just to see how he does before I start taking a dally on him. That's looking pretty good. Feeling pretty good. Shorten that right rein a little bit. All right, touch him on that butt. That looks good. So now I'll take a dally. I'm just dragging. And I start with that log on the inside of that circle so that he kind of maintains that arc in his body. Kind of got his nose and his eye on what I'm dragging. Dragging, that's looking good. I might open my right hand a little bit and let some rope slide. So I'm not dragging the log, but I'm letting rope slide. And I might put a little tension on the horn. Drag that log some more. Dragging with the log or the scary thing or the whatever you're dragging on the inside also prevents that rim fire that I was telling you about. That's looking good. And I like to drag a log until the horse has some cadence about him, until there's some balance in his footsteps. He's really working and pushing forward, not moving laterally too much. He's just kind of putting his shoulders in the ruck straps, and he's just pushing. He's going. That's nice. I'm liking that. come back around this other side. And for rein management, hand management, and rope management, in the name of rein management and rope management practices, I'll kind of let that rope slide through my hand. I'll get further away from what I'm dragging. I'll turn and I'll face it. And then I'll do what they call getting short. So I'll ride towards this log. And the last thing I want, especially if I got a critter tied to the end of it, the last thing I want is my horse stepping under my rope. So as I ride up to the log, I will coil my ropes. Coil my ropes. Stop. Get short. Take care of that rein management. Take care of that slack between you and what you're dragging. From here, I might ask my horse to back up. Kind of try to keep him straight. And I'll just kind of pull this log towards him. Just kind of pull that log towards him. Just checking him out before I take my dallies. Right on, right around this log again. Come up here. Now I'm gonna come over here, ask for his hips, bring that front end through, take a dally, and I'm gonna back as he's dragging. Good, just like that. Good. On my dallies, right on. So before I start taking my dallies and dragging that thing towards me, I'm going to make sure when I'm not dallied that it's not going to bother him and he's not going to freak out. A little tip that I do when I'm working a rope with something, before I ditch my rope, and if the ship hits the sand real hard, yes, get rid of your rope. But say I'm ask him to go forward here. Say I get here, and I'm dallied on, and my horse boogers out on me, and he starts not doing what I'm asking, and there's some confusion going on. Before I kind of throw my coils to the ground, I'll pop my dallies, keep the coils in my hand, and then I'll pick my right hand up, and I can kind of manage my rope, manage my horse, get that over his head, kind of get back to where we were. Hang in there, buddy. Hang in there, buddy. Take your dallies. Oh, thank you. So you can hold that right hand straight up above your head, and you can kind of carousel your horse underneath that rope and stay out of trouble. So we've been doing inside turns. Now I'm going to start to do some outside turns. So I'll take my dallies, right off in a straight line. There that rope's on his hip. Now I'm going to go to the left, so he's really feeling that rope on him. You can get in a bind there, so get your horse used to that rope. Get that horse used to things. Remember, you can always pop your dallies and be free of it. Got a little spaghetti nest in my reins, or in my coils. So when you get a little spaghetti nest in your coils, like what just happened there, just stop what you're doing, ask your horse to stop, hold on Fluffy, get your reins, and just kind of sort your coils, get them stacked out a little bit nicer so that they're not going to be all twisted up. So we'll walk off. I'll go from a straight line. I'll get short here. I'll go from a straight line, and then I'll turn left. Feel that rope around your hip. Don't freak out. Hang in there with me. Everything's going to be good. Nice. So then I can do a real world situation where I'm kind of dragging this calf along. Somebody heels it. So now I'm going to ask for his hips, ask for his front end, ask him to back up, just like that. And then I can pop my dallies after he's been healed and laid down and branded and castrated and vaccinated and all that stuff. So that's a little bit about dragging. Ground preparation definitely helps prepare you for that. My last little bit of advice, especially before you go out and you start riding through the sagebrush and roping wild cattle, because I know all of you guys are going to be doing that because you're adrenaline junkies and you love it. My last bit of advice for you guys is get out of the habit of looking at your horn and then taking your dallies. Okay? I promise you something. I don't promise very often, but I promise you something right now. That horn's gonna be there, right there, every single time. That thing ain't moving. So get in the habit of paying attention to your horse, to focusing on what you're dragging or what you're roping, so you can have situational awareness about what's going on, but you can still take your dallies without looking at your horn. So you can keep your eye on the thing that you're dragging. You can keep your eyes on your horse, eyes on the thing that you're dragging. You can ride around, let that rope slide through your hand, just let it slide. Focused on the log, take your dallies, and then ride on. And then stop, bring that front end through, and ask him to back up. Pop my dallies, throw your rope, say attaboy. So that's a little bit about dallying, a little bit about dragging a log. Take things slowly, take things incrementally. Have fun with it, take your time. And most importantly, be safe. You know, God gave us 10 of these things. The thumbs are really important to us. Other than hitchhiking, you need them. So at the end of the day, if you got 10 of these things and 2 of these things, keep it up, stay safe, have fun. Catch you next time.